And we are live, so we will start. System and
Let's do it on three. One, two, three. One half a step too late or too early, you don't quite make it. One half second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. On this team, we fight for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch. Because we know that's the difference between winning and losing.
Mean in the Green. It's right here for you.
That's football, guys.
Go Mean Green.
Welcome to the GoMeanGreen.com Barbershop Podcast, dedicated to students, alumni, and fans that truly bleed green.
Don't give them room to breathe.
Follow us on Twitter at GoMeanGreen and visit our website, GoMeanGreen.com.
Love that.
Gotta love it, baby. Here we go.
Now, your hosts of the GoMeanGreen.com Barbershop Podcast, Evan, Harry, and Ashton.
So way to hit it. Let's go.
hello, everybody, and welcome to the 205th edition of the GoMeanGreen.com Barbershop Podcast. This is Evan.
This is Harry.
This is Ashton.
This is JD.
Thanks for letting that flow so well, guys. We
I
just
was
finished
waiting on
up.
Harry, so
Yeah, we were waiting for Harry. He seemed to forget what he was supposed to be doing. Hey, guys, we just came back after a pretty amazing feeling win against UTSA. And when you look at all around and the teams we played, we're not doing as bad as I think we were all thinking we were doing before last weekend. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think really following the Cal performance, our spirits were lifted up a little bit. We didn't feel as bad as we did after, losing that game to SMU. We were very competitive in the Cal game. And then lo and behold, Cal goes out and beats Ole Miss. And SMU, even more shockingly, beats TCU in Fort Worth. So all of a sudden, I think that's what we love about this game. I mean, college football, things can change on a dime, and I think the Mean Green Nation is a lot more optimistic after that UTSA, I guess, throttling. I think it's pretty exciting point of the season if you're a Mean Green fan.
yeah, I mean, I mean, like I said, you can go back in last week's podcast. I wasn't that upset for the Cal game. Like it bothered me that we lost, but I was optimistic. I was really optimistic because I thought we had a lot of things in place that like were looking pretty good. And SMU's good. I mean, they're just good now. I mean, do I want to beat those guys? Like hell yeah. But I mean, everything, all the things that I think we were fearful about didn't get fixed at the UTSA game, but I think that the UTSA game was definitely like Harry said, it was able to lift our spirits up a little bit. If anybody was feeling like we were really, really down in the dumps, which again, after the Cal game, I was trying to talk to people off the ledge who I thought that were getting a little bit too overzealous. Like Cal's a good team, but at the same time, like we're going to lose some of those games. And somebody called it an abomination. I can't remember who that was. But anyway, it was no, it's a huge win. I mean, beating UTSA is always fun for sure.
Well, so the teams that we lost to are still undefeated. SMU beats TCU, which I don't think anybody sees that happening. And I'm watching the play-by-play as the North Texas game started. And TCU had a chance to at least tie the game, and instead they went for the win and to completely mess that up. And so SMU is looking good, and Cal is what are they ranked? 15 in the country right now?
Yeah, I think so.
So
16.
Harry, you're breaking up there, but yeah.
Yeah, I can't hear Harry
really
very
amazing,
well. Sorry.
that we happen to play two teams that are really having, they made some good changes off the, well, SMU made some really good moves, and obviously Cal is kind of repeating some good fortunes they had in the last year. So we won the game. Let's get back to the UTSA game, 45-3. It was the largest margin. It was isn't that the largest margin that of any of the North Texas games have against UTSA have ended? Isn't that everything else was within a touchdown?
Yeah, to my knowledge, none of the games have been that close. I mean, or not. I'm sorry, that lopsided where it wasn't ever a game. UTSA didn't look good at all, which makes me happy. They look terrible, so that's fun. But they just didn't look good. And one of my friends said, we shouldn't take too much out of that win because UTSA looked terrible. I don't care. I mean, we beat the hell out of them. We looked good. Our backup defense played well. It's like we got some guys some reps on offense. So I was happy that when the backup defense, the number 2s went in, we didn't give up like 2 garbage time touchdowns to like mess with some defensive stats. I was really happy that we could keep it such a dominating performance. And I think, they played really well. And I guess like we all said last week, man, like, we needed a spark. We needed some turnovers. We got 4 of them, 3 of them, 4, 5. Anybody?
I think it might have been 4.
I think it was at least 3. I think 4. Okay, so 4 turnovers. We needed those. We had 1. So I mean, to my knowledge, I think so. Yeah, man, we needed that big time. And again, that's a much better win.
I think it was nice just to see us put together a full game. We've had good first halves, we've had good second halves. The whole Seth Luttrell era, it seems like it was nice. I felt like this was the first time that from the start to finish, it was all UNT, and it happened against UTSA. That makes it even that much sweeter.
Yeah, the game started out before the game. Everybody was thinking and concerned because it was announced that Bussey was out for the rest of the season, and that was a big hit. A lot of people were upset about that because that was a pretty rough thing to hear right before a game against UTSA.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. If you watch the play and watch him go down, you shouldn't be surprised that he was a torn ACL. I mean, it looked really bad and non-contact kind of stuff. It's always pretty easy to see that this might be a while. So. Yeah, I mean, losing Rico's huge. Like that's not going to be. You're not going to replace that. We lost JG, and JG was really good, but JG I don't think is Rico. Rico has that speed. He's got the after the catch ability. He's got the hands. Rico doesn't have a lot of bad drops. JG, that's one thing he really needed to work on last year. So, we lost JG, which that kind of sucked, but we still had Rico, and now we lose Rico. So. Guys like Darden and Mike Law like really have to step up and I think we spread the ball around, which was good, but just keep handing the ball off, man. Like those running backs are good. That's such a nice luxury to have. Like just keep giving them the rock, and then when them 2 get tired, easily. Like he's perfectly capable, So that's a nice problem to have right now. Too many running backs.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Dickey, kind of like playing a little bit of Dickey ball these days. We've got some talent at the running back position, and I tell you what, the offensive line's playing really well right now too. That doesn't hurt one bit.
Yeah, I think it was an overall better performance by everybody. And also, I'm going to have to identify and recognize the elephant in the room, that their quarterback went out on the second play of the game.
That's fine. Screw him. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I'm just joking.
Ashton Campbell. No, that was.
I'm not kidding.
It was one.
No, but no. I mean, that's awful. Like when he went down and he's got Dion Noville laying on top of him, and then he gets up, grasping his arm. Yeah, I mean, it's like, what the hell just happened to that poor dude? That was tough sledding because they didn't seem to have a good. They didn't seem to have much behind their quarterback at all. Like their backup, it was pretty shaky.
Well, when he went out, I was sitting there and my wife was, well, who's hurt? And I was like, oh man, he's hurt and holding his arm. And she was like, well, who was it? I was like, that's the quarterback. And she's like, really? And I was like nervously going, yeah. I hope it's not serious. Maybe just a 3 quarters worth or 4 quarters worth of injury here. But then they bring in the backup quarter, which was Narcisi. They bring him in, and the first play from scrimmage they call is a pass play, which was immediately picked off. And from then on, it was into the wind, it was a windy evening.
Yeah, Harvey just literally had to stop and wait for the ball to come down. It was pretty great.
That was not a way to get him his first handoff in the first snap in this game. Get him to throw it, interception, because from then on they were toast. They were behind the rest of the game. It was just ugly. But at this point, I'm just happy we got out of there. The UTSA fans were taken out of the game early. And Mason, I felt like he did pretty good. I think he was better than we had seen. I still don't think he's back to what we've seen him capable of. But, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
He's still slumping. He's still in a slump. He's not his normal self.
Slumping's a little harsh, right? I mean, he's not.
For him,
slumping is when you're playing bad.
For him,
right?
It's slumping.
Yeah, but some of the passes like to Michael Lawrence, that just, I mean, uncharacteristic. The one thing about Mason Fine everyone loved is where he could place the ball. He could always put the ball. Now he had another reception to Michael Lawrence over the shoulder.
That was perfect. That was the touch. I was going to text
perfect.
You and say that was the one you were saying you wanted this touchback. Like that was the one
no,
right
there
there.
Was another one to Michael. No, there was another one to Michael Lawrence that was too low to the ground. So
I know that.
Anyway,
I know that one. I'm saying the other one had the great touch though, and I was thinking about your comment.
I totally. That's a highlight film play, but the consistency of that. The Mason Fine of, prior years, that was just him all the time. There just weren't that many bad throws. So I still see that he's in a slump. But like Ashton pointed out, this running game's bailing him out. I mean, quite honestly, I thought the coaching for UTSA, I was scratching my head. Why would you not try to stop the run? I mean, they didn't really make any adjustments. And we took advantage of it. So you got to give offensive coordinator Bodie Reeder credit on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that Mason, to go back to the Mason thing, again, I don't want to use anything negative because it's not like Mason is losing his football games. And it's not like we're sitting here having to say, oh man, Mason needs to figure it out because he's still playing. He's still playing well. He's just not playing as well. I think the guy, I mean, sometimes I think that the pressure that he has on himself, that he brings on himself, I mean, the guy is so competitive and so laser focused. I think he puts too much, I think he's under an immense amount of pressure that I don't think is justified because of the outside, maybe the Heisman stuff, maybe whatever, like all this stuff, he has a lot of pressure on him.
No, and I completely agree. And when Harry says
it's
he's
too much almost.
Well,
it's
yes, when Harry says he's slumping, previous years we would have killed to have a quarterback that was doing this well during Mason's worst performance. I mean,
yeah, that's why it's hard for me to sit here and like nitpick Mason because we're not losing games because of Mason. Right. And now, granted, we haven't won any games that Mason's just gone out there and like single-handedly carried the team on his shoulders and said, I'm going to win this game we're going to ride. And I mean, part of that maybe because the running game has been pretty good this year. So he hasn't needed to do some things. He is without 2 massive weapons now. I mean, I'm still going back to last year with Jalen Guyton and some of the young guys hadn't started clicking yet, even though Shorter is starting to come around. That over the shoulder or there was one long one to Shorter that I thought Shorter made a weird read on where he should have made a different read that Mason was looking for him to do something else, that if he makes the right read and goes over, I think, his right shoulder and catches it for a touchdown, that's a beautiful play. And then we might be singing a different thing about Mason because he's got 50 more yards and an extra touchdown, Right. So it just, again, like the pressure, I'm not going to sit here and say that Mason's not playing lights out, because we've seen him play better. And he'd be the first one to tell you that. He told me that the other day. It's just, but the amount of pressure that this kid has, and that I think that we put on him, is sometimes a little bit unfair, just because of what he's done at such an early, like as a sophomore, he did so many great things that now as a senior, we're like, hey man, where's that conference championship, or something like that. And I don't know if it's fair sometimes.
No, I would agree with that. And there is a lot of pressure. There's a lot of things being said. But he is the best we've had, and we really wanted it. We've seen it gear up every year. We expected to see that, and, everybody's kind of scratching their head a little bit. Oh, it was the first game. Oh, it was the first two games. It's SMU. It was Cal, and things started to click a little towards the end on Cal, but we still couldn't pull it off. And that, I think people are just there's just really high expectations, whether or not that's what he's put into our mind in the offseason, the athletic put into our mind. That's just a lot to process. But whenever you see this game against UTSA and you see the final rushing yards, we had 290 yards rushing and only 211 yards passing. This does not seem like a stat you would have expected to see out of North Texas. UTSA had the ball longer in this. When you look at that, and that tells you a lot of the defense. UTSA had the ball for a minute more than we did, and they scored 3 points, and we scored 45. You're just kind of wondering what, that's got to be seeing the UTS fans just completely destroyed was rather fun, but it was kind of a weird game for them.
Well, we had this coming. I mean, or they had it coming. The first couple of years of being in the league with UTSA was depressing, because here's
they didn't pay their dues.
Program didn't pay their dues. All of a sudden, they're immediately going to be successful and kicking our butt. And that year they took the conference championship from us. That still stings a lot of our fans to this day. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I felt like we needed that. We really needed that victory.
Right.
When the series was they were up 3-1, the fans were a lot louder on Twitter and everywhere else. Now that we've took the lead 4-3 in the series, they're a whole lot quieter. You don't hear from them near as much. I think they've finally kind of been put in their place a little bit,
and I'm hoping that continues, because I can really do without this for a couple of years. I really can.
I mean, now Seth's 3-1 against them, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's great. I mean, it's like
he
now
does everything right. I mean,
now he kind of owns.
Seth approaches this game like it's a rivalry. He takes it seriously. He's everything to UTSA that Mac wasn't. Mac didn't take it seriously. He got his ass handed to him, and then he pretended like it wasn't that big a deal, and he was already talking about, well, it's one game at a time kind of crap. It's a big game. They recruit against us. They're in the state with us. The biggest message from this game to me is this is a game where we took care of business.
Yeah.
We were supposed to win. We did win, and we put our foot on their throat and took them out early.
Right.
I love seeing this. I love seeing this as a fan, because, as you know, Evan, the Old Dominion game last year, I mean, Louisiana Tech, you can go through the list. There have been some games where we haven't done that. So this is a good sign for this year.
So let's talk about the part of the game. Mason went out in the fourth quarter. We saw Bean and is it Aoun?
Ani. Austin
Ani.
Ani. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to JD on this one. Tell me the backgrounds and especially for the people that are listening that might not know. Who is Bean? Who is Ani? And how are these guys going to factor in a post-Mason North Texas football, scene in the future?
Let me say one thing real quick before Jordan starts. You don't know this, Evan, but Jordan is like the #1 Jason Bean fan in all of North Texas fans.
Oh, really?
So this is
he
a
might
good
not
question.
He might not want to talk about Austin. I can talk about Austin more than he can, probably. He likes Jason.
Yes.
All right,
He loves Jason.
All right, so let's talk about Bean, and if you can manage it, a little bit of Ani.
Bean, he's a redshirt freshman. He comes from Mansfield, Lake Ridge. He was more of a runner, coming in. And I think you saw, the first play out of the book the other night. I mean, the guy's got freakish speed. I mean, for a quarterback, he's the fastest guy on the team. So from what I've heard, he's the next in line if he can figure out the passing. And from last year, the little bit we saw him, it looks like he's finally getting the hang of it. So but what he can do with his legs in college football, I mean, it's pretty unstoppable if he could just, get the bare minimum passing. It's pretty deadly and scary to think about.
Yeah, he had 34 yards rushing on 3 carries. The long of 20. And I remember seeing him scamper out there.
You see that first play where he just
look like he's
glides
running
down the
that
sideline.
Yeah.
He doesn't even look like he's running that fast.
Exactly.
He's outrunning the whole team. It's crazy.
For the record, at the ACU game, first game of the season, Bean was warming up on the pregame warm-ups where they're all just kind of doing their own thing, not even team stuff. And he does some sprints, whatever. He's probably kind of jogging, but it looks really fast up and down the sidelines. And I stopped him and I was like, "Hey man, just out of curiosity, who's faster? You or Rico in a foot race?" And he actually admitted that he thinks Rico could beat him in a foot race by like a step or two. So it's interesting. But the funny thing is that you're saying
not this year.
You're flat out fastest receiver and fastest player on the team, and the backup quarterback is just self-admittedly a step slower. Jason in his head might think, "Oh, I whip his ass," but he's just saying like, I'm a little bit slower, So.
Well, that was good. All right, so JD, or if you want to defer to Ashton, so tell me about Austin Aune. What's his story?
I mean, he was no pushover when he was coming out of high school, even though it was, half a decade ago. He was a 3-star recruit. He was committed to TCU, ended up getting drafted. Baseball, went and played in the Yankee system for a while, and now he's 24, 25. But, when he was coming out of high school, he was a top-notch recruit. And, I mean, I don't know with his age and stuff. My thought, this is not coming from the coach or anything. I just don't know how long, is he going to want to stick around until he's 27, 28? I don't know. I don't know the guy personally. I don't know that. I think Jason being a true, redshirt freshman, the prospects of him sticking around are probably, greater. I don't know. I'll pass to Ashton on that.
Yeah, I mean, Austin seems to really, really enjoy being there. From what I see, he's a super, super nice kid. He's very mature, which you could imagine because he's 20. I think he's 25 now. He looks a little bit older, but not like super old. He still looks like he could play college football. But he just carries himself. He's pretty quiet. He's pretty athletic though. I mean, he's real athletic. He made some plays at some scrimmages. He made a Patrick Mahomes like play where he just kind of was running, and I think he took it with his left hand and said, "Oop," and threw it up like over a defender because he didn't have an angle on the right hand, and he threw it with his left and kind of shoveled it to him, while scrambling and about to go out of bounds. So I think he's got some athleticism. He was a stud baseball player. I mean,
this guy was drafted by the New York. This guy was drafted. Yeah, Ashton and I think exactly the same thought.
Well, JD already said it too. It's not like it's old. That's like it's new news. JD just said it.
No,
he got drafted
I'm saying
he got drafted. I think the third round. I think it was like second or third round. Like we're talking about top 100 draft pick in the amateur draft in Major League Baseball out of high school by the Yankees. And I think he was coming out as a second baseman or a shortstop, middle infielder, regardless. So, I mean, you're not going to get drafted in a pro baseball franchise, one that has good player development, and not have some kind of athleticism and not be good, at quality. And it obviously deterred him enough to. What?
Yeah, if this comes to us in the era of McNulty, we're like doing backflips and just high-fiving all up and down the stadium. I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches compared to where we've been in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice problem to have. To what JD was saying, I mean, I guess anybody who's at a certain age, they could always just be like, you know what, man, I'm 26 now. And, but at the same time, Bean is not this like number one QB in waiting. Like, he needs work. Like, he has to work on some things, like, for sure. So, I don't know. Maybe Austin sees that, he needs to stick around because he might play. Jason is also like pretty lean. He needs to put on some weight, or this, the same rules apply for Mason. If he gets hit, you don't want him to take too much of a punishment because he doesn't have a lot of thickness. He's just built that way, man. He's just a really thin kid, but he's got an arm for sure. But there's some rawness there that you gotta untap and get through. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's definitely a nice position to be in when we're
it really is all time. And it really is. So let's really move on to the rushing who we saw in this game. Siggers had 143 yards, 53-yard long. We were hoping he could get that last guy and make it even longer than that. Torrey had 62. Bean had 34. He was the number 3, easily at 25. And good to see Nick Smith up there with 17 and Johnson with 14. We definitely spread it around, and it's great to see these names and see how many yards. Of course, Siggers 143. That's what we would have wanted to see, and we hope we can continue to see that kind of output from him. On the receiving side, Torrey had 3 receptions for 60 yards, but it was Lawrence that had 5 for 58. Now, for the past few years, loved watching Lawrence. Felt like earlier in this season we didn't see a whole lot out of him. But, man, this game he was making the grabs and making them count. So it was good to see him get a lot of play.
Yeah, they need to get on the same page, Mason and Mike, and I think they were much more in this game than they were in the Cal game for sure. And if they're clicking, especially with Rico being out, that's very, very, very important.
Right.
And it was nice to see Deontay Simpson, the freshman from Beaumont, Westbrook. He got out there, got his first catch in college. To replace Bussey, I don't think there's one guy on the team that's going to be able to replace him. It's going to be a group of guys. And seeing, Deontay Simpson, Greg White, Jair Shorter, all them guys kind of getting in the action, making some catches. Shorter got another touchdown. It was nice to see. Like I said, it's going to be a committee. There's no one guy. But seeing Simpson, he's a guy that's got a high ceiling. He was a high-rated recruit last year.
Yeah.
Seeing him come in as a true freshman, is good to see.
Well, the Darden with 4 was a top
every week. I mean, every week I got to bring his name up, but Jalen Darden, man.
That's what I was going to say. He had 4.
The best receiver that never gets any credit for it, but I'm telling you, that guy has some, wicked moves. And wouldn't surprise me to see him have a good day against the Cougars this weekend.
All right.
Simpson was a guy I wanted to bring up if we didn't get to him. I'm glad JD mentioned him. Like, yeah, one of the coaches told me that he has probably the most natural pass catching ability on the team right now. Like, he just has a natural ability to catch the football. Like, you don't need to teach him anything about catching. It's route running and everything else. He catching, he's got it down. He's just got the hands. He knows how to do it. He's very good at catching a football. If we're talking about Jason being the fastest, or 1A and 1B, Rico and Jason, number 3 is Shorter. He can fly, and so that kid is a gazelle. So if we can keep, we went for him multiple times deep now. I don't know if you noticed that Cal game, UTSA game. We know that Jair has the size and the speed, and so we're going to start trying to take advantage of that with maybe smaller DBs, or just burn it down the field. And I loved it because, Mason throws a really good deep ball. Guyton was always one of his good deep ball guys back in the day, back in the day. But I think that it'd be nice to get Shorter involved more, and I think that's starting to kind of happen, especially with Rico going out. I mean, your number 1 receiver out there, not a slot guy, is Shorter. So.
All right, so now let's talk about the defense a little bit, because I think the defense had their best game of the year. I think it was pretty obvious. I felt like the defensive line did a great job balling up the run when these guys had it. They tried to run a lot, and we did a good job against it. I hate to see some of the fouls and some of the penalties that were costly, but I think the defense really came together. They made some good recoveries, and they really kind of got excited, especially with that first interception. Once that came through, I felt like the defense really just turned it on.
Yeah, I mean, to me, sorry, go ahead, JD.
No. I mean, all I was going to say was, a guy that I like right up there with Jason Bean is Katie Davis, and I felt like this was kind of his coming out party. He had some missed tackles at Cal, but leading the team this game with 9 tackles. He was a high-ranked recruit too. We beat Illinois for him, so finally seeing him catching his foot and stepping in. We lost both our linebackers last year, so we needed some of these younger guys to step up. And like I said, I feel like this game was his coming out party. That he's the real deal. Just needed some games to get under his belt.
So I'll take your Katie Davis and raise you I'll take your Katie Davis and raise you a Dion Noville. How's that? Because I thought Noville, he's a weird cat. I mean, I know he looks like the Hulk. I mean, he's a big dude and he's really quick, and I would see his stat line, but I guess I just wasn't focusing on him a lot. But for whatever reason, this game I focused on him a ton. And man, he threw that guard or whatever from UTSA around like a rag doll. Big old lineman, just threw him around. Noville he's playing all conference right now. And another guy that's not getting as much mention as he's used to getting, I think, is Hambone. I mean, Hambone, they're really putting a lot of attention on him this year. He's not sneaking through as much as he did in years past because they know he's a known commodity. But I think Ladarius is having a hell of a year, all conference type year.
Yeah, I agree.
Another guy that
Go ahead, Jenny.
One more guy that kind of stepped up that we weren't really sure about. Dayton LeBlanc. His dad used to coach here, used to be the defensive line coach.
Yeah.
He stepped up and became a player. I mean, it seems like, every time you're watching the defense, Noville kind of sticks out, but there's LeBlanc in the backfield making plays. So that was another guy that stood out.
The irony to me on that is that we kept losing these defensive linemen that were the highest ranked guys. Is it Demeco Rowland, the kid from Oklahoma, didn't make his grades or whatever. There was another guy from the year before from Oklahoma. So, you're kind of concerned, are we going to be okay? Do we need help there? To see these guys playing at the level they're playing, man, it's very encouraging for the program.
Yeah. To say something about LeBlanc, LeBlanc is always, every time you see a quarterback kind of in trouble, I always feel like I see 91 chasing after him. And it's like he doesn't get the sacks, and he may not get the hurry, but he's always around there. He's always back there doing it. So he's always sneaking through. And he's a guy we got because he was a little bit smaller, and so bigger schools didn't grab him. I mean, he's not playing for his dad. He's playing for us. So I think that's it's just one of those we're going to get the guys that might get overlooked kind of moments. I wanted to bring up Mikhail Sanders. I don't know if anybody noticed this, but he walked out there and started in Jamil's spot. Jamil Moore's spot, for the game and for the Cal game that he played really well, and he did really well as well. So it was nice to see our another addition to the secondary, knowing that we've got some depth there because we know Jamil can play, but I think Sanders, maybe the coaches think he's playing better, so he got the shot and he graded out really well against Cal. And I haven't talked to Ref about him grading out against UTSA, but I mean, who didn't grade out well against when you only score 3 points? And not even sniff the end zone. So, I mean, yeah, I assume he played a really good game as well, but I saw him back there making some plays. I think we dropped 3 interceptions? I mean, we should have had 3 other picks.
Yeah,
dropped one that was literally right here, and he dropped it. So, that was great. I mean, I'd rather have dropped interceptions than not even have a chance to get an interception. So.
Yeah, it was good to see. It was good to see us actually have things go our way on that. I mean, obviously we didn't get the interceptions, but just the opportunity. UTSA could have ended up a lot. It could have been 60-3. It really could. They missed a field goal. There was a lot of different issues there. I will say, and it's killing me right now. Who was the player, the defensive player, the lineman that picked up the fumble? One-handed, just palmed it, picked it up.
Manasseh.
Yes.
That was Manasseh.
Yeah.
In the stats, it doesn't show that he had a fumble recovery in the stats, but he picked that thing up with his hand. And you're
He
thinking,
scooped it up and wanted to go run.
yeah, and then
So
he lost like 10 yards, but at that point we didn't care because it just looked so great. Big guy picking it up, just rumbling along, and just people, that was pretty good. And speaking of plays that were memorable, I will have to say this. I know we're backtracking a little bit, but Torrey's touchdown down the sideline, the visitor sideline there, where two guys took a lunge at him, easily could have stopped him before the end zone, and he managed to spin and throw both of them off. That was a pretty awesome.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the play, it's pretty easy to follow. It was a gift that's
They
everywhere.
have it on Twitter, and they're calling him the spin cycle because he does the spins. It's really cool.
he's it's funny because Siggers is kind of burst on the scene this year, and we talked about him on this podcast. I know I brought him up, at the beginning of the season. JD brought him up as well. Like we had high hopes for Siggers based on his camp and spring, but that's kind of going to overshadow Torrey. Torrey's been fine. Like there ain't nothing wrong with DeAndre Torrey. That's it's such a great 1-2 punch to have those two dudes back there. But it's like we talk about Siggers a lot, but I mean I love watching Torrey run. He's shifty, man. He gets through.
Oh yeah.
Trey's hard to bring down. Sometimes Torrey doesn't avoids tacklers in a really fun way to watch, kind of like Jalen Darden, but nobody's as shifty as Jalen. Again, like I said last week, he's always going to make the first dude miss every single time. There's no way. No way.
Yep.
So
Right.
as that game progressed, we saw a lot of people. We saw a lot of plays. UTSA was just having a rough game. They had pretty much mailed in. There was 1 4th and 6 getting towards the end of the game where they threw it. The guy was wide open and just dropped the ball. It was like us against SMU. If it could go wrong, it did go wrong, and it was over for them at that point. Now, let me ask this question of you guys, because number 4 for North Texas, what's the when you see him out there and saw him, because I watched him a lot, and now I'm looking at my notes and I can't remember what his name is. Who is number 4?
Kyrie Muhammad.
Kyrie Muhammad.
The safety,
I want to
number
say
4?
at least 5 times in this game, the refs pulled him aside and told him to quit talking trash. He had some penalties, and I'm going, is he that big of a trash talker? But he kept getting. There were several times he could have gotten called. He could have gotten called. He did get called. I'm just wondering, was he just really hyped up for this game, or is this a usual occurrence?
Kyrie's emotional. Let's just put it that way. No, yeah, Kyrie's got he's got a chip, man. I mean, I think that Kyrie is one of those dudes. He's small. He probably got overlooked. He played at DeSoto. There's a nice DeSoto pipeline with North Texas. He's got that edge to him, I think, that some guys coming out of DeSoto have. He's good. He's obviously quality. He's been a 3-year starter, and he played as a freshman. Yep. So, I mean, Kyrie's, but yeah, I think that sometimes Kyrie just might need to just chill out a second. But I mean, it's hard. You don't ever want to tell you don't want to tell whose dog is that?
I'm pretty sure that's Harry's.
Sorry.
Because Harry's like in the living room.
He's in
on his couch with like his stairs behind him.
And the North Texas hat's all blurred out.
Harry's just trying to show how tall the house he's living in is. I'm in like a freaking basement.
I can't remember. I forgot Muhammad. I've got too many screens going on here, but he hasn't had.
Harry's got too many stairs.
Is that what it is? Yeah, he's living in Downton Abbey over there, and he wanted us to all see
Let's
it.
play the.
Yeah. Well, when he first started,
Kyrie. If you see Kyrie getting after the play, it's not overly surprising sometimes. Let's just put it that way.
All right.
Hey,
Well,
I
love
him. Also on the leadership. He's on the leadership council.
Oh, dude,
the dude.
He's a great team. He's a captain. He's a team captain.
He's a top-notch guy.
Yeah, Kyrie's. There's a person back there on the stairs.
Oh, that's creepy because they're all blurred out.
My son.
Hey man,
Harry's got the background blurred out, and his hat keeps blurring like it says something inappropriate, and we're having to blur it out.
Tough crowd tonight, man.
Oh, that's good. All right, let's move on because we're already 40 minutes into this. All right, let's talk about
All right,
this
go
week
Mean
against.
Green.
Yeah, no, we're not that far along. So let's talk about we're going against Houston, which is not the Houston of old, and unfortunately, Houston's main quarterback is out. I noticed that somebody, it was probably Harry, has already thrown up "Where's Ray" on the message board because we're now at a situation.
Do it.
I figured that I don't know who found that
do
picture. So for those people that aren't familiar, when Nathan Toon was our quarterback several years ago, right when he graduated, everybody was thanking Nathan for his service. Nathan's dog disappeared, and for the longest time, everybody would post "Where's Ray" because that was the dog's name. Well, it's been brought back up because Nathan Toon's younger quarterback, which seems like Nathan graduated 20 years ago, but his younger brother, who played at Hebron, I believe, is that right, JD? Wasn't it Hebron?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
He played at, he's now the quarterback for Houston. So Clayton Toon's going to be the quarterback of Houston, coming to North Texas this week. I saw him when he played Plano a few years ago. And, what are we going to see from them? I always fear the backup quarterback. Historically, North Texas has always had a rough time against the backup quarterback, except this Narcisi guy here this past week. That was not a situation. But I remember when we played Air Force years ago, we were all excited they had a backup quarterback, and he ended up running the option all over us. So what are we going to see from Clayton that we wouldn't have seen from their normal guy who's out? And what kind of offense does Houston run?
Well, first of all, we should thank our lucky stars that De'Aaron King decided right before the North Texas game week to pull a red shirt and sit out the rest of the season.
How does that
I'm still
work?
scratching my head about that one.
He's going to transfer.
But how does that work?
He's saying he's not going to transfer.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
No, he's saying he's not going to transfer.
Okay,
Well, I know, but his
work?
father also said he was, and there ain't no way. We never see that kid throw a pass for Houston ever again.
So, but how does that work? Can he say, "I'm just not going to play," and they have to release him, and he just sits there?
After 4 games now is the rule. So you can play in 4 games, and then you can still redshirt the entire year.
Well,
Rico can come back next year if he wants to and redshirt.
So
Rico Bussey could technically right now has an extra year. If he wants to come back to North Texas, he can play next year. And it's not even, he doesn't have to apply.
I understand that. Yeah. So my question is he that good that he thinks he's going to get a better situation somewhere other than Houston, or did he just wants out?
The only thing, I tried to poke around with some writing sources I have, and I haven't gotten much good info on this, but I personally, what I'm kind of finding out and just talking to some people is that maybe I don't think he's going to be at Houston next year. I also don't think he's going to be in the NFL. I don't think he thinks he's going to be in the NFL. Like, he could make a squad, but he's not going to get drafted. So maybe there's something there that I don't know this, but maybe there's something there with him and Dana. They don't get along. I don't know. The only thing I could think is that it's not going well, and he's going to just sit out this year and then and retool for next year and then try to get his draft stock up for 2021 draft. And maybe he thinks he has a shot because he's looking at looking across the nation and seeing who's coming out that year. Really, Trevor Lawrence, and then who else, I don't know, because it's odd. It's odd if he just decides to not play the rest of the year with guys that he's been there with for 3 or 4 years. He's just going to say all right, guys, peace out, and I'm going to leave. That's Bush League. So this seems to me it's not as easy.
They have a bunch of transfers that SM, right. But the spin coming out of Houston is they have a bunch of transfers that some of them, I guess, didn't get their eligibility approved to be able to play until next year. And I saw a list, Houston Chronicle article. There's 7 or 8 guys from, Power 5 conference teams, and that they're better positioned next year with all these transfers and everyone they have coming back. So it's kind of a weird deal. But again, from the North Texas standpoint, I'm sure Toon is a great quarterback. I think he's kind of he's not going to pose the same running threat that De'Aaron King would have. And we've always struggled against running quarterbacks. So if you're in North Texas, I think the line went from us being 2 or 3 point dogs to all of a sudden we're favored by 4 or 5 points. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Like even the Vegas odds makers see us as having a better chance.
So let's look at Houston, who they've played so far this year, to kind of get an idea. They lost to Oklahoma 49-31. It was pretty serious, although I'm really surprised they scored the 31. But that was the first game. Oklahoma's number 4. They soundly beat Prairie View by 20 points or whatever it was, 37-17. And then they played, was it Wisconsin? Yes.
Washington State.
Oh, Washington State.
Washington State.
Okay, I knew it was a W something. So they played Washington State and lost 31-24, and Washington State is ranked. And then the Tulane game, which I think a lot of us watched last Thursday, they had a large, they were up like 21 points, and they ended up losing to Tulane, who just kept coming back. Now you got to wonder how that's playing on their psyche, and maybe that's why King decided this is it, I'm out. Because he just sees that this season is lost. So they're sitting here at 1-3, and their one-way victories against Prairie View. I know that I can't be a very happy crew down there.
They're not happy, but that's a brutal schedule, man. And
Yeah.
and I watched the entire Tulane game. You know, they played 4 games back-to-back more sooner with less breaks in between than any other team in the whole country, I think they said. So it was a brutal schedule for them. I mean, to play OU, right out of the gate like that, and then Tulane is telling you, man, Willie Fritz, he's going to get a big time job. I mean, he's really turned that program around. So I look at it like they've played really tough teams, and they're still a very good. This is going to be a big challenge for us. This would be a big win for us, even without King at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, Houston's a good team. King scared me, but it doesn't make me think, oh, yeah, we got this now. Like, I kind of wish we weren't favored because that doesn't sit well with me. I don't really know why we're just immediately, favored just because of King. I mean, but at the same time, like, Dana's system takes a little bit of time. There's going to be growing pains. So maybe we catch them in this growing pains year where they're still trying to figure everything out. New quarterback. They're going to throw the ball. We know that they're going to throw the ball a lot. It would be. I think it'd be a massive win.
Has Toon played much this year so far?
I don't think he's played this year, but I think he played in their bowl game last year. I'm pretty sure he was the quarterback.
Hopefully that's not a showing for them, because didn't they lose 70-10 or something?
I want to say he played some last year, because didn't King was injured last year, right? And then I don't know if there was somebody else playing instead, but yeah, I mean, King was.
Yeah, they lost their bowl game pretty soundly, and they play Army next week. So that's kind of their chance of redemption, playing Army again this year. I don't think the Army's the same team as they were last year. I don't even know what their schedule is, but they're coming to Denton. I feel like we're pretty strong. This is not the same team that we have. They don't have the same team the last time we played them. So, that being favored kind of worries me a little bit on that one, just like you guys. But I think we got a good shot. And if the crowd, it looks like the weather's going to hold up. If the crowd shows up like they do, I think, or like we were expecting them to, because the students have been showing up, I feel pretty good. I was a little disappointed in attendance the other night. I know there was a lot going on. But I think a lot of people weren't looking at the big picture and kind of seeing what everything is. But I think it'll redeem itself this week. I think we'll see a big crowd for Houston.
We don't do well.
Yeah, and this
after
is
losses.
the game. I'm very excited about this game. I mean, I think people kind of with UTSA and God, we were favored by 16, 17 points. This is an exciting game. I think this is a game that you really look forward to as far as the opportunity if you're a North Texas fan.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt, because it's Houston. It's a big. This is probably name brands, one of the names that people get excited about to see at North Texas. And if anybody sees, well, we're 2-2, but who do we lose to? We lose to 2 teams that are still undefeated. I just feel like people have got to be excited for that, see what we can do. And then, of course, after playing after playing Houston, we play, who do we play? We're an off week? Jeez, man, my mind just went blank.
Southern Miss there.
Is it Southern Miss, or do we have an off week between before?
We have an off week after Houston.
Yes, and then Southern Miss.
Bye week.
Okay, that's what I thought. Bye
Correct.
week. Sorry, I know after bye weeks it can be a little dicey. All right, what else, guys? What else for the games? What else against Houston we got to bring up?
Sweet.
Really? I didn't even have a
That's
chance.
the time we don't talk over each other.
I know.
Right there.
I don't even have a chance.
I know what we need to
pull
talk about. Hey, JD, give us a recruiting update, because didn't we? There's been some things transpire over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we offered a JUCO defensive end. I think it was the day after. I guess it was Sunday. We're still number one in the 24/7 rankings. We still got 17 commits, all 3 stars. Talking to the staff and stuff, I feel like we're going to kind of hold still with what we got. Kind of wait until later in the year, kind of see where we're at, what holes we're going to fill. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't maybe try to backfill with some JUCOs or transfers after the season, because we went pretty high school heavy last year, so I wouldn't be surprised with that. But we haven't had any recruits or commits here in the last week or so, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it pick up here in the next few weeks, especially with the bye week coming up. That's usually a pretty heavy recruiting week. It is.
Well, I'd like to see us definitely hang on to what we've got. That's always good. It used to be, let's just see what we're going to show up with at the end of the season and see who decided and who didn't have anything better off. It's good to see that we at least get a little consistency.
Yeah, and I think this year we kind of made a mistake. I don't know if it was a mistake or not, but we filled up pretty quick last year, and at the end we really couldn't. Some guys came open. We really didn't have a spot for them, and Seth's been good about not pulling scholarships. So this year, I think we've still got somewhere between 7, 8 scholarships left. So I think that's one of the reasons we've kind of slowed down, is to keep those available, because there's always guys that fall through the cracks at the end, especially when coaches changes start happening. So That's kind of something to watch for.
All right, so now let's move over to Ashton. Ashton, talk to us about, give us a tease of the this week's Beyond the Green and what we can expect to see.
There actually isn't one tomorrow.
That's an excellent tease. Thanks, Ashton. I'm glad that I.
Well, at least I didn't.
That was
at
awesome.
At least I didn't say tune in.
And that'll do it for us.
Turn the music lower. Don't Oscar music me off. All right, I hate that.
Dude, I had it down low so you wouldn't say that.
I got to
I had it
explain
down low
dancing
so
on the
you
green
wouldn't say it,
with
and then you
music in
said
my
I got
ear.
nothing.
God. Anyway, yeah. So one of the things that and I talked about this before, is we've got a certain amount of features that we're working on throughout the year, and we're covering all sports. So we might position things a certain way. You're going to see one next week during the bye when you normally wouldn't see anything. And I kind of like that, to be honest, because you wouldn't have a game, or the following week you'd have a bye week. After the bye week, which is not next week, is the week after that, you'll see something that you normally wouldn't see anything. No game, no feature, no Beyond the Green episode. So you will see an episode, a feature following the bye, which you normally wouldn't see. And we'll be back next week with a feature. The game rewind will obviously be there as well. The school does. So, but yeah, this is just something that, along the way, there might be a week where we take off and then either put it down, a week ahead or something like that, or just position it accordingly. So.
What the hell is he doing?
I don't know what is happening right now. Everybody's just kind of looking. JD's
I'm trying to
looking
see why JD wears his headphones upside down.
Evan was like, nobody was listening.
I got lost when Ashton was like, well, there's a bye week.
JD was writing a letter to some recruit, and then Harry was fixing the freaking stairs, and Evan was playing with his damn headphones. So.
I was trying to figure out JD was wearing his headphones. All right. Well, I was going to tell Ashton, great job with the show, but all right. So because there's nothing this week because we've got stuff this week, but we have something next week because we don't have anything next week going on.
No, it's just with everybody, with the new format is going to be where they're separated. They're always going to be separated.
Yeah,
so technically, since we're not on Fox and we're not doing a whole show at one time, we can space things out.
You don't have anything to do with those recaps they're putting out, do you?
The beyond the game, beyond the green, the game rewinds.
Yeah.
No, they do that in house. I mean,
I didn't think so. I'll be honest. I watched one. I've watched your stuff, but I watched one after the UTSA game. That was the first one I watched. And I could tell it was different. So I mean, I could tell it was different. So I just wanted to clarify that.
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to, like what you said before. They're trying to it's about getting more stuff out and over, like not just all at one time. Which again, I agree with. The game rewind.
Like Ashton's trying to do beyond the green. They're just kind of on the green.
Play the music. Play the music. Play the music. Let's get out.
That was awesome.
Right,
I will say
Harry,
this.
go to bed.
Go
to bed, Harry. Go up the stairs.
I do want to say.
I know that's a long way up those stairs.
I do want to say I got 2 wishes. I want them to keep doing the white squirrel because it had its first victim this week with the missed UTSA field goal with the white squirrel curse. Right. And I want the guy who controls the sound that plays the Bon Jovi Living on a Prayer. I want him to cut it off at the right time so all the fans are singing it rather than playing the music through the whole chorus. Because whenever you cut it off right before the chorus, or in the middle of it, the fans will keep singing and everybody gets excited about that. But when you cut it off,
good point.
When you cut it off after the chorus, it doesn't flow. So I just feel like somebody needs to sometimes thump that guy on the head. So anyway, all right. Well, with that, I will slowly play the music because Ashton said his piece about Beyond the Green, and we will talk to you guys in 2 weeks. Go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.